So last year this new show called Love Anarchy popped up on my Netflix page. I decided to give it a shot and I was absolutely obsessed ever since. Now the latest season came out and I can't get it out of my system. That's why we're here today. First, let me tell you about the setup for this thing, because it started out great. So the show begins with Sophie. She's already an accomplished woman. She has a very well-paying job, a husband, 2 kids, and a huge house that looks like an IKEA spread. I mean, look at this thing. From the outside, it looks like Sophie has done all the growing she needed and she's gotten her happy ending. And that's the problem. What do you do after the happily ever after? So in comes new job, weird after-work practices, and down-market Bill Skarsgård. Hot new guy was equally as bored as her. And it was a good season. Until season 2 came out. But let's unpack this, because obviously I ain't got nothing better to do. So the core element of the show was the game Max and Sophie had going on. It's a source of both comedy and sexual tension, and it helped the viewers see just how controlled and restrained Sophie Worlds was, and how unaccepting of her husband was. In contrast with Max, who's just this chill guy. By divorcing her husband, Sophie starts accepting her craziness, as she calls it, but very obviously, there's only a finite number of sexy dares one can come up with before the public grows bored of it. So they kinda did away with them altogether, only to then reintroduce them. But it's simply not the same. They were kind of a rehash of the previous season. It started to be, in fact, boring. In this new season, there's a lot of time spent on weird things, like Max's Instagram model career, or the Reddit girl trying to get a good deal for her book, who then becomes Max's neighbor for some reason. Not to mention the endless time spent on Sophie's random hookups that serve nothing to the story. There's also a whole sequence with furries, guys. Furries. I get it, they added a comedy part of the show, but it shouldn't be to the detriment of the actual plot. What's the point of having 3, and I say 3, Sophie Does Crazy Eyes sequences if there was so many important things they could have invested the time into? All characters suffer from bad development this time around. The main focus of the show shifts to the love triangle between Vivienne, Denise, and Frederick? This guy. But these people were very much in the background in the previous season. They were the supporting acts. We spend no time at all developing this relationship. So why should the public be emotionally invested in them? They also leave you on a big cliffhanger about them in the very last moments of the last episode. But honestly, it's not the big serve that they thought it was. And it feels annoying when writers cannot force you to focus on something when it's their fault if you're not interested. Max and Sophie suffer from underdevelopment too, both as a couple and as individuals. The season opens with them together, and we can assume that they spent the summer as a couple, but by episode 2, they're already broken up, so we don't really get a sense of how they are together, how involved in each other's lives they are. So when they split, it's not really emotionally engaging for the viewer, since we don't know what we're missing. Also, it brings the relationship all the way back to step 1, and it's frustrating. It's Netflix. If I wanted to rewatch season 1, I'd just do it. Don't need another worse version of the same story. I say worse because you can literally see the lazy writing at one point. Take Max. In the first series, he's got a life. What I mean by that is that we get to see his house, we get to meet his friends, we see his daily life outside of work, and we eventually find out that he has mommy's issues. And that's why he has a thing for older women. In this season, we are told that he needs a new house. We are not told how he can afford not to cohabit anymore, but Caroline finds him a place, with a garden. So all he does in these 8 episodes is stand in his vegetable garden, lie in his vegetable garden, sometimes even sits in his vegetable garden. He even makes coffee in the bloody garden and showers. That's it, that's all he does. His friends are gone, he doesn't go out, he doesn't go to the gym, he doesn't go grocery shopping. We don't even know if his house has a roof, for goodness sake. He's just there, showering in the garden, waiting for Sophie to do her bit or something. I think this was supposed to be about Sophie's quick descent into madness, and they decided to make her see her dead father's ghost. Now, this is surely unexpected, but it's presented in a very nice way. Sophie suddenly gets a phone call that distresses her, and it's hinted that someone, likely her father, has passed away. But then, in the very next scene, you see your father showing up at the door. So it takes you a while to realize what's happening. This would have been nice and intriguing if only it had been developed properly. After the introduction of Lush's ghost, he's barely ever seen again, and Sophie never interacts with him until the last episode. He's there to make Sophie understand that she needs to live her life fully and as strangely as she likes. Sophie had already realized this in season 1, so why does she need to learn it again? Also, how is trashing an apartment helping in any way? I don't get it. She just spends half of her screen time screaming because the script says so. It feels lazy compared to the more polished approach the previous season had. When it comes to Love and Anarchy, I know that no one wants to sit down and watch 4 hours of a happy couple doing happy couple things. So there was a need for conflict. But they ended up choosing the wildest option, aka Sophie doing stuff just because she's doing them. And it could have worked if the previous season wasn't so well thought out. There were many other nice options that they actually set up that could have been explored and made more sense. For example, they made Max show up at Sophie's house while her kids were there, and Isabella started catching on her mother's affair. That would have been an interesting source of contrast. Instead, they just forgot about their existence altogether. Or the fact that her husband starts bad mounting her all over town. Instead of exploring that, they resolved the whole thing in the last episode by making Johan cry and apologize to Sophie, saying he was worried. Again, this character had no introspection whatsoever up to this point. What happened off screen and why was it off screen? And again, as I said, Lush's ghost could have been better. So summing up, if season 1 was reversing all the stereotypes of a rom-com and giving you unexpected turns to the story, season 2 was checking all the boxes for early 2000s sitcom. All 8 episodes are about Sophie going completely batshit crazy for no reason at all, only to then be very sorry to Max and, I don't know, having a speech on the radio about society. I can't get over this one. I honestly think that Lisa Langset didn't think she'd get a season 2. So she had nothing else to say and had to patch things up the best she could. I guess I'm just tired of all these shows having great premises and then delivering poorly. Overall, this felt like a 5th season, not a second one. They recycled everything that worked the first time around and ran with it again. And strangely enough, I honestly hope there will be a 3rd season, just to do the first one right. So anyway, that's my rant. Hopefully now I can get these characters out of my head, because if you can't tell, I've been kind of obsessed. But still, tell me what you thought of it. Have you seen this show? Did you like it? Because honestly, I feel like I'm the only one who's seen this. There's very little on the internet. I guess thanks for watching and bye!